Questions. Why are we ever nice to each other? Why do we tell jokes? Jokes, not sneers. Do we think, I am 3, and if I smile at Mum, she'll smile back at me. She likes me, she really, really likes me. If I want food, I just wail. That's what I do when I want something or need something at 3. The European statesman wailed because his mommy Trump frowned. If I just whine loud enough, it's the temperament tool. I drove up to Massachusetts a few years ago to pick up a desk during COVID in my conscientious mask. The seller was an ex-biker, now Trump voter, very sweet, all unmasked to defy death, show disdain for China, for Biden, to make us feel like idiots. No. As I stood listening to him in my black mask, only eyes visible, arms wrapped across my chest, I felt him flinch fearfully, and I thought, he wants me to see all his face and understand he is not challenging me. Survival technique from biker days. I was masked and unreadable. He wanted instinctively to be read. Are we nice to someone to pacify them, to disarm them, grinning like dogs, showing deference? I have learned to read people just enough to see a man or woman who will play. Will play and relieve tension that rises out of always potential danger of encountering another human. If I get it wrong, rarely these days, often in those days, I get popped, punched, but it's been so long. Apparently, Sergei Lavrov is a great kidder. Gorbachev was, Yeltsin, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, W, Vlad. Yep, all kidders. And yes, I do hate some of them, but they do play my game. It makes us human. Humor. Bibi? Who knows? I doubt he's a kidder across party lines. Stunning revealings recently. I talked to a devout theologian, no kidder he, about how weird the Greek gods were that the Greeks invented, scoundrels each one, how each one seemed to be a pathology, a psychological disturbance. Ares, the guy who never relaxes, who takes offense 3 times a day and fights in pubs. Aphrodite, who can't stop coming. Cupid tormenting. Dionysus drinking madly. Zeus impregnating. Apollo constantly criticizing in a snit and jealous. On call to the right human, but always wanting something in return. A pantheon indeed. Athena is such an enigma. It's a good line to a song. If I was to look into her, she is almost an anomaly, maybe even an evolution, or maybe she's one of the oldest. I don't know. I should study it. No tradition of transcending, he said. I said, I know. My theologian looked at me and said he'd never thought about the Greek gods and in that way. And I was surprised at that. Wouldn't you study the alternatives? Or the forebears? Or was the pantheon rejected as just not us? Yes, that's very monotheistic. Nothing happened before us. Not the ones who had seen the light, the ones left behind, the hopelessly deluded, the irrelevant. I did ask a couple of sessions ago in this group that I have been working with on Dante, and I said, was Dante an apologist for the ancients, for the pagans? Because they're all over his stories. And I was assured, no. But no evidence was given. No books were cited where I could find, St. Augustine talking about Aristotle. The hopelessly crazy horse was a shaman. General Crooks knew that and respected him deeply. General Crooks, a deep Christian, which might be why. You didn't know that, did you? It is irrelevant. My study is easier, you see. My books are not published because I find evil in you. no worse than anyone else's evil, but the bookshelves are empty of studies of your crimes. When 1619 comes along, you ridicule. The facts are as unchallengeable, but are impossible too. To you, they are unimaginable as crimes. The Titanic was unsinkable, like Western civilization, like Shakespeare. Well, both can be punctured and live. Maybe even be better for it, but you are truly Titanic. You will sink by the ballast of your need. On October the 7th, I remember, too, Biden saying, "Of course we support Israel." As if to say, we are the alliance of the good. We are the good, and they, by default, are the bad. That simplest of Christian absolutes. Maybe the scholars do ponder how many tassels a pope should wear, but the rank and file, it's all about good and evil, mate. You must be deviant to even ask, a typical Democrat. Genocidal? Moi? To question any further was absurd. Whatever they did in response to the attack that day was virtuous. If it was excessive, a little, he did warn, like the reaction to 9/11 Biden did, he actually said that, it would be what David Brooks calls a small mistake, a goof. Saints in a momentary loss of control, falling beneath our usual unimpeachable standards. Is there not an organization in Latin America, say a coalition, a treaty organization, let's say, to defend smaller countries against US capitalist exploitation? Why is there no PTO, Pacific Treaty Organization, to counter US hegemony? Doesn't Russia have as much right and cause to protect itself from Europe expanding eastward as NATO has done, as we have in making NATO to prevent Russia moving west? No, we say, we are the righteous. The Russians have their part in our story, I should say your story, as villain, as Satan. Because you need Satan, don't you, dear? Without him darkening the world, there is no cause for you. I'm often cast as villains on the TVs. Actors who play good guys always say they want to play villains. They're so interesting. Well, they're not. Not as written. They are, in a sense, all written by Joe Biden, as simple as Western culture can be. As a villain actor, I say the good guys are so much more interesting, but then I am rarely cast that way. I must give off bad guy juju. I'm sure I do. And I can feel that. If I were president and someone asked me about Israel, I would say, look, they have cause. On balance, I think, but I am torn by it, end quote. Not what was said, though. It was implied that we are an alliance of the good. No matter what we do, it is still better in the long run than what they do, as if there was a real question in it, not an unquestionable place on the hierarchy of righteousness. This is the great mess we are sailing unheeded into. The righteousness of Western civilization is being challenged at last, like the cops and the men and white superiority, all in the last decade. And for some of us, this is just not possible. For a European to confess they might have got it even ever so slightly wrong over the past 2,000 years, demonizing the rest, the Russians, indigenous people, Africans, Muslims, Jews, second-classing at the best, all the rest. Not a secret, smug, cuddly sense of superiority, but a bombing, policy, economic, loud claim to supremacy. Well, that European, if all that was gone, would have no identity at all. And they don't. For all their wine, wank, and existentialism. And at this fragile moment, while people are struggling up from the hole they have been put in, claiming an identity, this or that, not just striving for the one, the affluent white American one, the status and the quo, comes screaming identity politics. No shame, no dignity, just wailing away that he had thought we all shared the value that Russians are evil. It really means that much to his tiny, undeveloped soul. And I never say you're wrong. I do say you are only wrong in needing so pathetically, desperately, whiningly to be right.